Welcome back, everyone. So glad you're here. In today's explainer, we're diving into something we all rely on literally every single day, but we rarely actually think about it: the supply chain. We're going to step right inside a real, fast-paced carton factory to see the nuts and bolts of how raw materials magically turn into the finished products showing up at your doorstep. We'll break down exactly how things flow, who's doing what, and the crazy level of coordination it takes to pull the whole shebang off. So get comfortable, because we're going to demystify this entire process step by step. Okay, let's take a quick look at our roadmap for today. We'll kick things off with the product journey, then we'll look at suppliers and procurement, move on from storage to production, track distribution and delivery, loop right back around to the customer, and finally, we'll wrap up with the golden supply chain rule. All right, section 1, product journey, where to start. So, every journey starts with a first step, right? Let's establish exactly what we're talking about here. The absolute most crucial point to remember is that a supply chain isn't just some boring list of corporate departments tucked away in an office somewhere. It's a living, breathing, interconnected ecosystem. I mean, it's the entire life cycle of a product. It kicks off at the very source with the supplier, travels through all these different stages of transformation, and honestly doesn't end until that final product is safely in the customer's hands. Literally, every single operation relies on the success of the one right before it. It's like a giant puzzle. Okay, to make this real, let's inject a little pressure. Boom. Imagine a massive customer order just drops on our desk. 100,000 cartons. And the ticking clock? It starts right now. We've got to fulfill this order on time, on budget, and without a single defect. No pressure, right? But seriously, how on earth do we mobilize an entire factory to make that happen? Well, here is our macro journey. This is the exact simplified path those 100,000 cartons have to take. We start with a supplier, move over to procurement, stash things in the raw material warehouse, actually make the boxes in production, hold them in the finished goods warehouse, hand them off to logistics, and finally deliver them to the customer. Now, I know it looks simple on the surface, but the coordination happening behind the scenes of these 7 steps, it's basically an industrial symphony. Moving on to section 2, suppliers and procurement department. Look, we obviously can't build boxes out of thin air. Before our machines can even fire up, our factory is entirely dependent on external suppliers to get us the right stuff. We're talking massive paper rolls, huge vats of starch and adhesives to keep the cardboard layers together, different inks for branding, specific chemicals, spare parts to keep the machines from breaking down, and even our own packaging materials. And the goal here? It's completely uncompromising. We have to pick a supplier who delivers top-tier quality at the absolute best price and strictly on schedule. Because a delay here? Yeah, that means a delay everywhere. So how does this actually play out in the real world? Enter the procurement department. These guys are basically the shield protecting the factory from running out of supplies. Let's say we need to secure 100 tons of paper rolls for our order. The team runs through the super rapid sequence. First, they identify the exact quantity needed. Then they request price quotes from various vendors, compare those suppliers to find the best deal, officially issue a purchase order, or PO, and then they obsessively track the delivery. They literally have to ensure this stuff arrives way before the factory floor grinds to a halt. All right, section 3, from storage to production. Okay, so those 100 tons of paper rolls, they've officially hit our loading dock. This brings us to the most tactile, noisy, and honestly high-stakes part of our explainer. But hold on, we don't just toss that paper straight into the machines. No way. When materials arrive at the raw material warehouse, the warehouse team steps up as the gatekeepers. They are meticulously inspecting everything. They verify the physical quantity and weight match the PO, check the quality, confirm the item code, log the batch number so we have traceability, and make sure everything is stored safely. All of this data gets punched right into the factory's ERP, the Enterprise Resource Planning System. And why go through all this trouble? Well, if a shortage or a quality defect slips through here, the entire production line will literally stop dead in its tracks later on. We definitely don't want that. And here is where the magic happens, the literal physical transformation right on the production line. We feed those massive paper reels into the corrugator, which creates that wavy, super strong cardboard center. Then it zips over to printing for logos and text, followed by some precision cutting or die cutting to punch out the actual shape of the box. After that, those flat shapes go through a gluing or stitching process so they hold their form. Finally, they emerge at the end of the line as 100,000 fully finished cartons. It's awesome to watch. Which brings us to section 4, distribution and final delivery. So the loud machinery has done its job, the dust has finally settled, and boom, we have our 100,000 boxes built. But they're completely useless if they're just sitting around taking up space in our facility. First up is the finished goods warehouse. Here, the team meticulously organizes the new product and logs some very specific data into the system to ensure perfect inventory control before we hand them off. We're talking the unique item code, the destination customer, the exact quantity, which is 100,000 for us, the production date timestamp, and exactly where it's located in the warehouse. I mean, you can't ship what you can't find, right? So this structural organization is absolutely vital for a smooth transition. Next up is logistics. This is the final sprint of our relay race. The logistics team jumps in and executes these super precise steps. They prep the physical shipment, figure out the best transport, like, say, a fleet of trucks, issue the official delivery documents, carefully load the product so it doesn't get banged up in transit, and then actively track its arrival. Their one and only mission is to guarantee those cartons are physically transported and handed over to the customer right on time. Okay, section 5, the customer, beginning and end. We did it. We reached the finish line and delivered the goods. But here is where we hit a truly fascinating paradox in the supply chain ecosystem. I really want you to absorb this idea. The customer is the last link, sure, but they are also the beginning of the chain. It's a total loop. Think about it. Without that initial spark of customer demand, none of that massive industrial machinery we just talked about ever even wakes up. The suppliers wouldn't ship the paper, the warehouse would just sit there empty, and the trucks would stay parked. The customer is literally the catalyst for this entire operation. Let's actually map out that loop to see how beautifully it builds. Let's say, just as an example, a customer orders 50,000 cartons. Bam! That order instantly forces the planning department into action to figure out what materials are needed. Then, the warehouse checks their current balance to see what's already sitting on the shelves. Next, procurement steps in to source any missing materials. Production takes over, fires up the machines, and builds the product. And finally, logistics steps up and delivers it. It's this perfect cascade of events where every single department coordinates in flawless sync to fulfill that one customer need. And finally, section 6, the golden supply chain role. To wrap up our explainer today, let's distill everything we've learned across the factory floor, from those giant paper reels all the way to the delivery trucks, into one ultimate foundational formula. You're going to want to lock this into your memory because this is basically the holy grail of logistics, the 6 rights of supply chain. Check this out. You've got to have the right material in the right quantity with the right quality, delivered at the right time to the right place and at the right cost. If you can manage to hit all 6 of these concurrently, that is the undisputed secret to a successful, seamlessly coordinated operation. But if you miss even one of these rights, well, a profitable venture can turn into an expensive disaster really fast. And that brings us to a critical thought I want to leave you with today. If success relies entirely on flawless, continuous coordination across every single department, what happens to the global chain when just one link, like, say, a single paper supplier, unexpectedly breaks? It's a pretty sobering reminder that a chain truly is only as strong as its weakest link, isn't it? Well, I hope this little journey through the factory gave you a totally new perspective on the invisible machinery that's constantly powering our world. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Keep asking great questions, and I will catch you in the next explainer.